So those are two of the MGAs, or two of the commander's responsibilities. Another one, and this one's a little tricky sometimes. When I sat down to do this, what I'm telling you about is kind of filling out what we did in each one of these areas. These two were kind of easy. Executing a mission, managing resources were pretty easy. When I got to leading people, it took a minute to scratch my head and start putting things down that were quantifiable, that were something that I could measure and that I could see. But some of the things that come to mind as we look at leading people is status of training. Or do we have our people trained to the level they're supposed to be? And do we have the resources they need to get that training? Two-way communication. Now this is important. This is something that we talk about communication, but it's typically one way from squadron leadership. It's a commander's call, which is good. Sometimes a newsletter, which are all things we're going to talk about in here as well. But it's all one way. So as a commander or as a chief or as a leader in your squadron, how do you get information back? How do you feel or find out if your message has been heard and received in the right way? So it's hard because every time there's a doorway between you and Airman Smith, it gets filtered, or people are reluctant to come see you because it's a big deal to go see the boss or the shirt or the chief or the MOO or the AMU leadership. So one of the things I'll show you, I'm giving you all things here that we're going to talk about are things I've seen or I've done or taken part in or stealing from somebody else's idea. And so one of the things is to have a Gmail account, right? So there's one right here, ACCIG team. So if you want to write us, we'll check it out. And so one thing that Gmail account gives is anonymity. So somebody can talk straight to you, give you feedback about what they're hearing or what they're feeling, and they can make up some Gmail account, Spiderman33 and at gmail.com or something, and email you some concerns. That's something I've seen work very well. Fitness program is important in leading people. Getting out there and leading your people in your fitness program. From a standpoint for myself, that was where I got the most interaction with our people. Is after our first sergeant broke them in half. They were exhausted, barriers were down, had a chance to talk to them, but fitness is also important because if somebody's not current on their fitness program, they're not deployable, so it affects readiness as well. PME, are you tracking, are you looking to see, are your senior NCOs and tech sergeants going to PME at a timely manner when they should? I know it's something your chief normally takes care of, but it's something you should just be aware of and check out. ACAs, are we getting those feedbacks done well? Are they getting done correctly? Are they getting done timely? Are they talking about the same things? You know, when you're sitting down with an ACA and you look at one that a staff sergeant has with his airmen, and the ACA goal has none, right? So that's something that those guys need some mentoring and some help with to get a better feedback session going on. And these last two we've already kind of hit on, but commander's calls. I was 8 years enlisted and grew up in the Air Force for 26 years now. But commander's calls used to be I mean, they were boring as all get out. So what you got to try to do is make a commander's call meaningful. Talk about real things. Man, talk about manning, right? See, everybody always thinks that you don't have enough manning. So have a slide. Talk about manning. Hey, we're at 82% in a CONUS base, which is above average for ACC or Global Striker or whatever command you're a part of. Talk about it. And if you are hurting in an AFSC, talk about it and let them know what you guys are doing to help fix that. Talk about funding. Hey, nobody thinks we have money for anything. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But if you show that, hey, this is what we're spending, we've spent this much money, so we have money to spend. So if you have needs, that you need equipment, tools, things to do your job, let us know. Or hey, we're really hurting, so we really have to prioritize what we got to buy. So talk about real things that your commanders call a mission. How is everybody? Don't assume people understand what they're doing and how they affect and how they fit into the mission. So talk about that on purpose. And then newsletters or emails or whatever like that, so communication going out. But remember that two-way communication. Find and make sure you have a two-way communication loop so you get information back that you know you're hearing something. And the last one I want to talk about in this section as we look at AFI 1-2 is improving the unit, right? So this is where commanders are lacking the most right here in the sense of finding and identifying their own deficiencies. Don't wait for somebody else to come in and tell you where you're deficient and identify your problems. That is what self-assessment is all about, and that's what improving the unit, and we're going to talk about that over here. Culture of continuous process improvement. So CPI, process improvement, is something you should build a culture in your unit. I don't expect a squadron to have a full-blown fishbone, 500 stickies on the wall 4 or 5 times a year. That would be kind of not realistic. One, you don't have the skill set, and two, is it's really time consuming. Once maybe a year, at most maybe twice, but you create a culture. If somebody identifies a problem, you guys have a way to fix it. And you may not have to go through all these big fish bones, or you may take pieces and parts out of the CPI process to go ahead and get after a small problem that makes a big difference and fixes things. Something you can look at during, for continuous process improvement, or improving the unit, is CE work orders. Have something that you're tracking. You're looking at CE work orders. We're trying to improve our unit. We're trying to get our toilets fixed. We're trying to get our water fountains fixed. We're trying to get the floor painted. We're trying to stop the leak. Those kind of things, put it in there, talk about it, track it, see how it's going. Building manager, whoever you have that are kind of tracking your work orders, touch base every couple of months or something to make sure that work order is still alive and going well. And then lastly on this one is making all these things help lead to data-driven decisions. So a couple things, a way to do this, so I would give you these last two parting suggestions, is your staff meeting. If you're sitting in your squadron staff meeting, I would suggest you break your staff meeting up into these 4 MGAs, or these 4 areas of responsibility for the commander. You don't have to add any more data to your staff meeting unless you're finding out you need some stuff to do your job well. But what information do you talk about in your staff meeting that falls under executing the mission? What stuff do you talk about in your staff meeting that is managing resources? Is your vehicle MEL? Is it your equipment readiness status? Whatever you're doing that is talking about managing resources. This section that says leading people. What are you doing to lead people? One of the things I found really useful here in two-way communication was not only the Gmail account, but also a monthly breakfast. Sit down, a small group of people, in a squadron of about 300 people, no more than 5 people there. It was a group of airmen, and then the next one was a group of NCOs, and then a group of senior NCOs. The shirt and I sat down, had breakfast with them, and get to know them and to find out some information and things that are going on. But that's a really good way to get two-way communication as well, especially back when we were going to the new EPR and the SCA system and all that kind of stuff. There were definitely some concerns people had that we were able to kind of give our 2 cents on. But that's another good tool to get that two-way communication. And then improving the unit. So improving the unit self-assessment program is something we're going to talk about in the next video. But this is just some idea that I would suggest you put down if you go into a new unit, or if you haven't done this before. What are you doing in your unit that hit these marks? Sit down with your leadership team and go through that. And then after you get the baseline, have a board established in your room where somebody comes up with a new idea, a new concept, a new something you're going to get after. You put it on the board in one of these 4 MGAs, and you put a tracker, or you put a date or a suspense or something of that nature, and you can follow along, and you see as this continually grows. It's something you don't do just getting ready for the IG to show up. It's something you should do day to day, because this is the tool that helps you do your job better and then more informed. So what we're going to talk about next is we're going to talk about our self-assessment program and some ideas on that one. Thanks.